Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams, welcome to Eyeshadow Palette Month, and this video is a tea time chat where I explain why I'm falling out of love with eyeshadow palettes. I know. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's tea time chat is about why I'm falling out of love with eyeshadow palettes. I know, it's a bit of a cheeky one, but I have just in recent months am finding myself not really loving eyeshadow palettes as much as I once did. And I just wanted to share my thoughts with you on why I think that is. Please leave a comment down below how you feel about eyeshadow palettes at the minute, because that's one of the things I love about my Tea Time Chat series that I do once a month on here, is the conversations that we have in the comments. So definitely participate by leaving a comment down below. Today we're without the tea because I'm just having a glass of water because it's summer and I'm hot. So let's just get down to it. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, then hi, my name is Mocca. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, and this just means I feel a bit differently about most makeup products than other people who are in the online beauty sphere. I've been reviewing makeup for more than a decade, love eyeshadow palettes, essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of my makeup. So if you're here for that, I hope you would like to consider subscribing. So why am I falling out of love with eyeshadow palettes? That's the main question we're asking ourselves today. And I'm not sure if you guys are feeling similarly, but I have just found in recent months, as I'm doing my new makeup releases videos, that I'm just not as excited for eyeshadow palettes as I was like 2-3 years ago. And that may very well be because I've also chosen to slow down on trying as many new palettes. A couple of years ago, I could barely keep up with the new releases. I was buying them, but then I had to try them as well, and it just got to be so overwhelming. And I've talked last year about why I think eyeshadow palettes as like a thing are having a more negative impact on what we think of as good makeup as consumers, because definitely when I first got into makeup more than a decade ago, eyeshadow palettes just weren't a thing. Like 10-15 years ago, 2008, 2009-ish, when I bought my first makeup, eyeshadow palettes just weren't there. Anything over a quad or a quint just didn't exist. You had to either build your own palette using MAC. That was a whole thing at the time. But for the most part, it was just singles. And I actually remember doing this. I had a bunch of these NYX singles that I would use together as little makeup looks. And that's how I would do my makeup. So singles used to be the name of the game. Maybe a duo if you got lucky. But it wasn't until Urban Decay came out with their Naked palette that we got these 12 pan eyeshadow palettes. And I actually remember watching a video way back in the day by Eldridge who said, well, professional makeup artists don't use these kind of eyeshadow palettes. We curate our own palettes using singles. These eyeshadow palettes are very much aimed at consumers to, you know, get all of these shades and all that. And then of course we got the whole Morphe 35 pan sort of situation, which I've always found way too big. And I think that in the past 10 years or so, there's really become this sort of consensus that if you're getting into makeup, you want an eyeshadow palette that can do it all at first. And I remember that became a thing. I remember that those Coastal Scents 28 pans, I think it was, with like those dime-sized eyeshadows. I definitely started off with those as well. I had a neutral one, and then I had a colorful rainbow one that had like 2 trays. And I was like, great, then I have all of these different things. And as my makeup journey progressed, I really got into eyeshadow palettes, mainly because of the Urban Decay Naked line. That was my big, great love for years. But I'm definitely sensing, also in terms of like the makeup releases we're getting, that there's this turnaround almost. Right now, I just think that so many color stories have been done, and I just don't feel as exciting half the time anymore for new makeup releases. A lot of brands that we used to love in, like, you know, like the height of beauty YouTube, like 2016 and 2017, the ABHs, the Too Faced, the Urban Decays, that those brands are currently also just sort of repeating themselves. Even Pat McGrath with their motherships is like repeating herself when it comes to things. So there aren't just that many exciting color stories around anymore. And I just feel, I did a palette wish list video earlier in the year, earlier in the month, I should say, and talking about what eyeshadow palettes I'm excited for, and they're all by indie brands. So it's again that whole thing where indie brands are currently really still doing eyeshadow palettes, but more like standard brands that you can find at department stores and Sephora seem to be moving away from the eyeshadow palette, and it's much more about cream eyeshadow and liquid eyeshadow and eyeshadow sticks. Like, think of the Rare Beauty launch that we just got with those eyeshadow sticks. So brands are definitely sort of moving away from the eyeshadow palette, it seems. I've seen Lauren Ray Beauty talking about this as well. So maybe my preference is just me following trends. That could very well be. Maybe I'm just super influenced and all the makeup marketing that I see on my Instagram every day is starting to wear me down a little bit. But it's also just because I've tried so much. So the way I've been breaking it down in my brain, why I'm falling out of love with eyeshadow palettes, is because I have a lot of eyeshadow. Step one, I think I have by now, again, like close to 250 eyeshadow palettes. My makeup collection, like eyeshadow palette collection, tends to be between the 200 and 250 mark. Then I declutter and it's more towards the 200. And then when it gets to 300, I tend to get a little bit overwhelmed again and I need to get rid of things again. And that's usually the cycle I go through. I like trying new brands. I want to try new formulas. So that's definitely part of it as well, because I do this YouTube thing. I bring in a lot more than most people, at least I hope I do. Because as a regular consumer, of course, you don't need that many eyeshadow palettes. And I don't even think that as a beauty curator, you need that many eyeshadow palettes. There are plenty of creators I follow who have fewer than 50 or sometimes even fewer than 20 palettes and who feel very happy with what they have. But I definitely fell into the rabbit hole of, the whole Pokemon, gotta catch them all. I had all of the ABH palettes at some point, all of the Too Faced ones, all of the Urban Decay ones. And out of that set, the only ones I've really kept are the Urban Decay ones. The other brands, I've definitely decluttered some. And what I've also been doing is that I'm sort of curating my own color stories from those palettes that I know I like, but only keeping the shades that I'm actually keeping the palette around for. Because especially with like 12, 15, 18 pen eyeshadow palettes, I feel there's always a couple of shades that you feel aren't perfect. There's always a couple where you're like, I don't really need this. And especially when you have a bunch of eyeshadow palettes, you're going to be swimming in matte cream eyeshadows, and you're going to be swimming in a lot of matte brown eyeshadows, and you're going to be swimming in a lot of black, matte black, because that was like the focal point, like the center of every single palette at some point in time. So I'm really trying to avoid palettes that have too many of those light shades or like mid-tone browns and blacks, because I don't really need any more of them. I have a couple that I really, really rate highly, and that's what I'll keep around forever, and I love it, but I don't need any more of them. So yeah, I definitely think that that's part of it as well, that I've just been able to curate new color stories for myself from palettes that are older, but that I just want to get more use out of. So that's also what I mean when I say in my intro, I like getting the use out of my makeup. It's not for me about using things up and hitting pan and that thing, but just going back to the things I love and getting more use out of the things I love rather than buying the new shiny thing. And for a very long time, eyeshadow palettes were that new shiny thing for me, but also for the entire makeup community, it seems. And I just think that we're slowing down on that. Currently, it's much more about skincare and cheek products, the whole like cream cheek moment that we had last year, the skin tints that we've been seeing. So I'm definitely seeing a shift in what kind of makeup is like trending and what things brands then like to bring out. And that full glam eyeshadow thing is just not a thing. If you're on TikTok a lot, maybe it's just who I'm following on TikTok that kind of skews my makeup preferences as well. But it's very much about that wash of color and a sparkle on the lid. Kind of what I like to do with my K-Beauty palettes, which is why I became interested in K-Beauty, because it was like, I just need something that I can whack on at 7 a.m. in the morning before I head out to work. Do I love the very creative glam eyeshadow? For sure, but I just feel there is so much more to makeup than these like very intense eye looks with graphic liner. Great if you can do it, great if that works for you and that's your day-to-day look, but I don't go living my day-to-day life like that. I just want to wear something that makes me feel pretty, pretty much. That just makes me feel beautiful, and that's why I wear makeup, not for confidence or whatever. I like the creativity part of it as well. I like to do some creative looks from time to time, but it's not my bread and butter. It's not my go-to. Something like this. One of the things you need to do if you want to enter my current giveaway is to ask me a question for the Q&A I will be doing in September. And one of the questions I saw someone ask me is like, what would be your go-to makeup look? This. If I had to pin down a signature makeup look that I can wear for the rest of my life, it's going to be a neutral eye, preferably cool toned like this one, a neutrally leaning cheek, and a red lipstick with like very nice glowy complexion. That's my vibe. That's what I'm going for. That has been my vibe for a decade. This is the look I revert back to all the time. And I've definitely dabbled in more colorful makeup. I've done the whole like glam look. I love doing different techniques on me and seeing how I can make them work. But at the end of the day, I have about 15 minutes in the morning to do my makeup. Sure, could I wake up an hour early to do the whole like snatched look? Sure, I could do that, but that's just not a choice I've made to go and live my life that way. I just really enjoy trying different formulas, and if I love a formula, to have a couple of things so I can always go back to that formula. But I got to a point about a year or two ago where I just noticed that I struggled going back to the palettes that I loved. And I was like, I need to slow down my eyeshadow palette purchases so that I have space within the month to go back to palettes that I love. Because that is one of the downsides of, you know, being a makeup reviewer and trying new things the entire time, is that the focus can be very much on the new. And that sort of hamster wheel is what I'm trying to consciously stay out of and getting out of, because if I've seen other creators sort of like, you kind of need to talk about new things in order to bring new people in. But I also feel that we can also slow things down just a little bit. And I think that that's also one of the reasons why we're getting so many new makeup reviews, is that with a lot of beauty brands, they bring something out, they're talked about, that gets the sales going, but then they need something new again. So we're all part of this rat race, which is just, you know, it's just a race to the bottom in my opinion, which is why I've tried to slow down how many palettes I bring in. I really try to calculate, okay, I can try 5 to 10 palettes every month, 5 if I also want to go back to older palettes, and then I can, you know, still review everything within, you know, the calendar year. Because what I just found is that I would buy something and then I couldn't get to it until like 6-7 months later, because I just had such a gigantic pile of eyeshadow palettes I hadn't tried, and I couldn't use the palettes that I loved. So I was like, I need to stop this. I made my way through the entire to try pile, because I try everything I buy. I review everything. When I try an eyeshadow palette, I want to use every single shade. Not just 2 or 3 that appeal to me the most and then say, oh, this is a great palette, which is what you see a lot of creators do. But I try to be very conscious of making sure I use the entire palette at least once before I review it, even the weird shades. Like if it has a weird glitter that doesn't appeal to me, I will use the glitter to see how it removes, how it sits on the face, does it fall down. Like I want to be able to give you all the facts, and if I want to be that thorough, I just need to slow down on how much eyeshadow palette I just bring into the collection, because else I can't keep trying it. And then if I love a formula, it's such a shame if it just sits there in a drawer and I never get to use it again. So I've made a conscious effort by having a video series every month called Palettes Revisited, Jam or Junk, where I go back to some of the older palettes that I love, also some of the reorganized color stories that I've created, to see, okay, do I like these now? Do I like this reorganized color story more than when I still had the original palette? And the answer very often is yes. So it's really me honing in on what I love, going back to old favorites. Makeup doesn't expire as quickly as a lot of people make it seem to be. I really just feel that this whole like, you need to get rid of things within a year, or if that little container on the back says 6 months, you need to get rid of it. That's just a marketing ploy to get you to buy more makeup and to get rid of perfectly fine makeup that hasn't expired yet, because that container on the back just means that that's what the manufacturer claims it is going to be in its prime condition. But that something is no longer in its prime condition doesn't necessarily mean expired. And so you can perfectly go back to older palettes. My Urban Decay Naked 2 is 12 years old. It still works a charm. It doesn't look rusty, it doesn't look moldy, it doesn't smell weird, it swatches beautifully, and it plies beautifully with a brush, and it's never given me pink eye. Of course, at some point in time, that might happen. I need to be prepared for that. But you can keep your powder products, especially powder products, around for such a long time, and much longer than a lot of people make it out to be. And I just really want to just use the things I love. And I know that a lot of you are like that as well. Is that content that's going to get me a lot of new followers and a lot of views? No. But I'm not here necessarily for the views. I really appreciate every single one of you being here and joining my little journey on here. But I just hope to bring in people who feel the same way about makeup as I do, rather than, you know, going for like, I don't want to be the go-to channel for like the newest releases. That's not who I am, that's not what I'm chasing down, and that's not my makeup journey. And that's why I think that this whole eyeshadow palette game, that I'm just really glad that that is no longer part of it, and that it's much more going to be again about enjoying what we're using. And I hope that we can bring that back, especially on YouTube. I just feel that after a while, so many channels just became about marketing new products, and it became less about enjoying the products and getting more use out of the products. And I definitely think that the beauty community on TikTok is sort of injecting this into the online community again, where we can just enjoy makeup and we can get more use out of things. We can use blush as eyeshadow. We can use a bronzer as a crease shade and then just put our highlighter all over the lid if that's all what we have that day. You don't need all of these new shiny things. We just need to use the makeup that we love, and there's always going to be new things to try, but I try to pick and choose and be very selective in what I do bring in. And I'm currently really on a K-beauty journey and trying to figure out what is new there. And that has me so much more excited for makeup again than a lot of the Western makeup brands that we're seeing. I don't really see the innovation there. I don't really see like the good formulas there anymore. And in fact, a lot of the Western makeup brands that I am excited for, Rare Beauty is the first one that comes to mind, actually manufactures a lot of their makeup in Korea. So why not cut out the middleman and go to the source material? Because a lot of what's in the Rare Beauty line is like Western renditions of K-beauty products. So that's why I was like, you know what, that's what I'm trying, that's what I'm currently loving. I know what I like, I know what works on me so well. After more than a decade of continuously trying makeup, more so than the average consumer. Some people say, oh yeah, I've been trying makeup for a while as well. No, you've been using the same mascara for a year that you didn't chalk out. I'm not much of a mascara reviewer. I just have my favorites and that's what I stick to. But the amount of foundations I've reviewed in my entire online makeup beauty career is staggering. When I look at it and if I go back to it's like, oh, did I like that at some point? Was that something I was interested in? So it's really been part of my personal makeup journey to just try so many formulas, not necessarily so that you don't have to, but that I really know what I like. And I really have gotten to a point where I just know what works for me. And I want to buy makeup that works for me. And a lot of the raved about brands don't necessarily work for me. So I'm going to focus on things I know will look nice on me, or at least that I can predict will look nice on me. If I find a formula that I like, that's what I'm probably going to pick and choose from that brand or that line, a couple of things from that I enjoy. And that's probably how my makeup journey is going to move forward from now. At some point, I'm sure eyeshadow palettes are going to be part of that game again. We're probably, like fashion, we're gonna revert back. Like 5 years from now, eyeshadow palettes will be booming again. But I'm just really enjoying the whole like, I'm just putting a bronzer on the lid and a sparkly shadow and I'm done for the day kind of look. It makes me feel beautiful. I've done a couple of those looks in recent months when I did a full face makeup look with some K-beauty products, but also the luxury makeup video that I did. I'm really, really digging my cream and one and done shadows at the minute, liquids. I'm really into that. And I definitely want to try and see if I can put some of that content back into the channel as well, because I'm just really here for it. And I'm really, really enjoying having these like very neutrally shades with just a good shimmer all over the lid and calling it a day, popping on a red lip. Like I'm really sort of going back to the kind of makeup I wore about a decade ago. I've tried so many other things in the meantime. Doesn't mean I don't love those things anymore and that I'm saying that you can't love those things, but it's just where I'm coming from and what makes me feel the best version of myself. And yeah, I just think that this look is just something I'm going to be wearing a lot this fall, winter season and upcoming years for sure. Will I still be trying colorful makeup? For sure. I love me a sunset eye. I love a good navy smoky eye. My blue, greens, and purples, they are still here very much. But I've also found that I just like it if they're a bit more toned down, a bit more muted, if they have a bit of gray or taupe running through them. Like these like brownish, greeny, sort of murky shades. Some of them call them grunge. I just feel they work really well on me and they go really well with my complexion. So I hope, like if a brand does a palette with that, I would buy it within a heartbeat. And there are still a couple of palettes that drop that really spark my interest and make me go, oh yes, love it, want it right now. But it's definitely slowed down. I think a couple of years ago when I first started doing new makeup releases videos, the only thing I talked about in those videos were eyeshadow palettes. And I've just widened my scope and there are just so many other products that I just feel so much more enthusiastic about currently than I do eyeshadow palettes. And I'm not sure how you guys feel about that. Definitely let me know in a comment down below how you feel about eyeshadow palettes. Are we seeing the death of the eyeshadow palette or is it not that extreme yet? I'm definitely seeing some sort of shift where we just get some other products and we just want things that are easy and we don't need like 15 shades that we need to think about how we're gonna combine it. I definitely think that that's sort of where 2023 and 2024 are going in terms of eye looks for sure. It's about simplicity. It's not about the full-on glam anymore. And I'm here for it because it's just the kind of look that works best for me personally. So I'm very happy and I'm willing to ride that trendy train, but I don't know how you guys feel. So yeah, leave me a comment down below with your thoughts on this topic. Are we seeing the death of the eyeshadow palette? Who knows? I definitely feel like we're going towards this more like simplified eye look kind of thing. And that also means that we don't necessarily need an eyeshadow palette. That's just the way I'm feeling. Again, let me know in a comment down below, thumbs up this video if you liked it. We're still in the midst of eyeshadow palette month, so I have extra videos coming your way, and of course my eyeshadow palette collection video towards the end of the month. I'm also doing a giveaway at the moment, so I'll make sure to link the video where I announced that down below, so you can find all the information about that giveaway in that video description. And then of course, yeah, thank you so very much for joining me today. Have a good one. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.